And now to that main story where Kern Spencer today wilted under the heat of yet another development in the Cuban light bulb controversy. Energy Minister Clive Mullings announced in Parliament that the fraud squad has been notified as a probe continues into the controversial implementation of the Cuban light bulb project. As Garfield Burford reports, the minister is also asking to whom was the stipend for Cuban volunteers paid.
Kern Spencer shedding tears in an intense session of Parliament where there was more heat from the Cuban light bulb controversy. Amidst calls from government members that prison sentences should follow from this issue, the Energy Minister told the House that he met with the Cuban officials last week and they told him that the stipend for the Cuban volunteers was paid by the Cuban authorities. He then read out invoices from Universal Management Company Limited claiming for stipend for the Cuban volunteers.
I therefore ask the question, Madam Speaker. Who authorized this overpayment? 2. Who did Universal Management and Development Company Limited pay the stipend to?
He also said the Cubans told him that the Cuban volunteers came to Jamaica on the request of the then Jamaican government. This Minister Mullings said contradicts what the then minister had claimed, that their arrival in Jamaica was a requirement by the Cuban government to ensure quality control.
The fact of the matter is that that stipend has always been paid by the Cuban government. This is not just a question of irregularities. This raises issues of fraud.
As the verbal exchanges intensified, a clearly uncomfortable Kern Spencer was seen first reading the statement carefully, then complaining about elements of it to his colleagues. Then he wept. One of his colleagues who sits near to him told me after the sitting that he felt extremely hurt. That was quite obvious. Government colleagues relentlessly called for him to be allowed to speak, but he did not. His opposition colleague Michael Peer then asked why this statement was being made while the result of a formal investigation is pending.
Or the minister conduct his own investigation and provide
that made a statement, argument done.
But the Energy Minister insisted that he was acting appropriately in raising the issue again.
And in dispatching my own responsibilities to this House and to this nation, for it to be made abundantly clear when an issue affects not only that as it affects the bulbs, but relationships between countries.
Philip Paulwell was not in the chamber at the time, leaving Kern Spencer to face the chance of government pressure. Following the sitting, key opposition members huddled together in their conference room for a meeting to discuss the day's events.
A report was requested. That report was prepared from both former ministers Paulwell and Spencer and submitted on November 5th, which was the date that was asked for it to be submitted. And a small team has been put together who is now looking at it, and they're to report to her by the end of this week. And so based on that, she will take a decision. But what was reported today by Minister Mullings was information that has been submitted to the Contractor General, and I think it was just a restatement of of the government's position to investigate the matter. And as I said before, that we fully support any investigation that is being done by the government.
Finally, Kern Spencer was crying today?
I didn't see. If he was, if he was, I guess it is just immense hurt.
So, more light on a growing controversy. Kern Spencer and Philip Paulwell squarely in the spotlight, even as the investigation continues. Garfield Burford for CBM News.